Humans are not the weak creatures that the alien beings once thought. As Eric's team fought for survival in the harsh cosmic training, they not only overcame the challenges but also dismantled a much larger conspiracy plot to exploit humanity's latent power. They not only proved that humans can survive in the universe, but also demonstrated that we can triumph through unity and strategic thinking. And now, with all doors closing, they are ready to face their greatest challenge, the great uprising that no one could have predicted. Are you ready to witness it? Don't miss a single moment. Hit the subscribe button now to follow this entire journey. The sky over New York suddenly darkened, not due to a storm or natural phenomenon, but because of the enormous alien ships hovering above, blocking out the sunlight. These ships were not an invasion, but part of a grand challenge, the tactical training exercise at Proxima 9, where alien beings from across the universe would take part in a combat proficiency test in extreme environments. However, for the 6 Earth cadets, this wasn't just a regular test, it was an opportunity to prove that humanity could endure, even when faced with the greatest challenges the universe could throw at them. Eric, the leader of the group, stood in the shadows of the gym, wiping sweat from his brow after completing his workout in Earth's gravity. To him, this was just a normal exercise, but to the alien beings, this was a challenge beyond their capabilities. Most of the alien cadets struggled to cope with Earth's gravity and harsh conditions. But Eric had no intention of just overcoming the obstacle. He wanted to prove that humans could do things other species simply couldn't. While the other cadets were still training, Eric and his team were preparing for the upcoming challenge training exercise. They all knew would require not just physical strength, but intelligence, perseverance, and adaptability. This would be their one chance to prove that humanity could conquer any trial the universe presented. They don't know anything about humans, Eric thought, looking out the window where the massive warship still hovered, preparing for the intense training ahead. They think we're weak, but I'll prove them wrong. Since the 6 Earth cadets arrived at the Galactic Defense Academy, they had been subjected to disdain and prejudice from all the other alien species. They were seen as weak beings, incapable of adapting to the harsh conditions of the universe. The aliens referred to them as Deathworlders, survivors of a planet full of dangers, one that couldn't support life for long in a universe where existence could be easily obliterated. Eric understood they were facing a challenge unlike any other, but he didn't let the prejudice discourage him. In fact, it only fueled his resolve. Humans, despite being looked down upon, would never give up, especially when faced with a grand challenge. The 6 Earth cadets, though small and seen as weak, had an advantage no alien species could understand. They had the ability to adapt, and this ability would lead them to victory. During a team meeting, Eric looked each member in the eye and nodded, as if recognizing something profoundly important. "We're going to win," he said. "Because we're human. We're not afraid of challenges. Let's show them that humans never give up." May, one of the team members, sat next to Eric, and she couldn't hide the worry in her eyes. "Are you sure? We've been split into teams, and they don't respect us," she said, her hands tightly clenched. Eric smiled. "We'll make them change their view. Everything can change if we act at the right moment. And then, they'll have no choice but to respect us." The rest of the team fell silent, each person contemplating what they would face the next day. This wouldn't just be a training exercise, it would be a battle they had to win to prove that humanity could overcome any challenge, not just in the universe, but in the hearts of all other beings. That evening, as they prepared for their journey to Proxima 9, a heavy silence hung over the group of 6. They knew this was their only chance to prove that humans could adapt and triumph, not just in this training exercise, but in all the future battles they would face in the vast universe. The tension was palpable, yet each member felt a strange sense of confidence building within them. This time, they would win, and they would not only change the course of this exercise, but alter the way all alien species viewed humanity. Tomorrow, the training would begin, and the Earth cadets would do the impossible. The Galactic Defense Academy was vast, located on a distant planet where beings from all over the universe gathered to learn, train, and prepare for grand wars. In the training room, the alien cadets waited for the briefing about the upcoming challenge. It was a vast space filled with creatures from across the cosmosome towering, others small like Eric and his team, but all had one thing in common. They would endure rigorous tests and unforgiving battles. Eric stood in the middle of the room, observing the other cadets. They whispered among themselves, their eyes always glancing over at the Earth group, as if they were alien creatures unworthy of attention. Beings capable of communicating through telepathy, using superhuman abilities like shape-shifting or teleportation, all looked down upon the Earthlings calling their planet Earth a death world, a place of constant danger and death. We'll have to prove who we are, Eric thought to himself. He looked at the creatures surrounding him, feeling the hostility hanging in the air, as if any of them could strike at them simply because they came from a planet that the aliens considered weak. In contrast to this hostility, the Earth group remained calm. They didn't rush to display their strength or challenge the other beings. But in their eyes, there was a powerful determination. They weren't here just to survive, but to prove that humanity could overcome any trial. The group was led into a training room, where they would face their first challenge, the training on Proxima 9. It was a foreign planet, one where creatures would have to contend with harsh living conditions, from electromagnetic storms to dangerous life forms lurking in every corner. The trainers, experienced fighters from across the galaxy, had prepared unimaginable challenges for them. All 6 Earth cadets knew this would be a severe trial, where they would need to demonstrate their survival skills. But no one in the group was daunted. They understood that this wasn't just a typical training exercise, it was an opportunity to change how the alien species perceived humanity. The training regime on Proxima 9 was a complex system, divided into various areas with different objectives. All the teams, including Eric's, would face a series of life-and-death challenges, things the aliens were confident they could overcome, but nothing they had ever encountered before. "Take your positions," ordered the instructor, Vexlar, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. The cadets began moving into their assigned zones, preparing for the challenge. Vexlar seemed indifferent toward the Earth group, always believing they wouldn't be able to handle these trials. But Eric didn't think so. To him, the most important thing was his team's confidence. Though the group was divided into teams and would have to work independently, they kept in contact through secret signals. They all had one common goal: victory. As Eric's group prepared for the challenge, the alien cadets snickered and exchanged looks of contempt. They didn't understand humans. They didn't understand the resilience and adaptability humans had when facing harsh conditions. "They won't survive this," muttered a creature that resembled a beast. Eric, though considered weak, understood in his heart that this challenge would prove the opposite. "If we survive this training," he thought, "we will change how the entire universe sees us." The Earth cadets gathered, mentally preparing for what was ahead. Even though they had been briefed about the challenges awaiting them, no one in the group could predict the dangers they would face. They would have to deal with intense electromagnetic storms, dangerous creatures found only on Proxima 9, and survival challenges that the alien species had never encountered. An hour later, the Earth group entered the training environment. The alien cadets had already begun their challenges, and Eric and his teammates had to use all the survival skills they had learned on Earth, fighting in harsh conditions, identifying dangers, and handling situations in risky environments. "What they don't understand is that we're used to danger every day," Eric said, his eyes filled with resolve. "And we will show them that humans never give up." Eric's team moved toward the first challenge, a rugged terrain filled with strange life forms. Every eye was on them, but they didn't waver. They knew that, even if they had to face death, they would not give up. The training began as soon as Eric's group entered the first zone of Proxima 9, a place known for its harsh conditions and unpredictable dangers. A heavy atmosphere enveloped the area. The dense clouds and the pitch-black sky not only reduced visibility, but also made the air feel stifling. Powerful winds and violent sandstorms began to sweep across the land, as if this environment was created to test the perseverance and strength of every creature that stepped into it. This was a place where only the truly strong could survive. Eric, with his leadership instincts, quickly gave orders to the group. Split up. Each of you take responsibility for a specific area. Be cautious and use every skill we've learned. Meanwhile, a group of alien beings, who had been separated during the training, were facing their first challenge: a dense forest area, filled with wild animals and strange, towering trees that hindered movement. The aliens could communicate via telepathy, but that didn't help them when facing this harsh environment. Rajiv, one of the members of Eric's group, was the first to spot a dangerous area. As he passed through a valley, he noticed a strange cloud hovering above. It was a type of plant releasing toxic spores, capable of suffocating any creature that inhaled them. Rajiv carefully instructed the group to avoid the area, using local plant leaves to make makeshift masks. "We won't survive if we don't keep the air clean. Follow my lead," Rajiv said, quickly cutting leaves and making simple filters. The alien creatures, not knowing what to do in this situation, could only stand and watch in awe. Though they didn't have advanced technology or telepathic abilities to help them, Rajiv used his basic survival knowledge from Earth to save the group from this danger. "Unbelievable," said one of the aliens with shimmering skin, utterly surprised by humanity's ingenuity. "They're using resources from the environment that we would never think of." Each member of Eric's team, despite facing difficult challenges, found ways to cope. Deo, who was always silent and reserved, displayed remarkable calmness and survival skills. An hour after the team moved through a rugged, mountainous area, they were attacked by a wild creature. Giant, wolf-like beasts emerged from the shadows, their eyes gleaming with hunger. The alien beings had no time to react. Deo, with his quick reflexes, immediately jumped into action to save his teammates. Using combat skills honed through Earth's survival training, he swiftly subdued the first beast, striking it with a deadly blow. The other beasts, now frightened, turned and fled. "We need to always be ready," Deo said, standing among the fallen monsters, sweating but unfazed. "These aren't like the creatures you've faced before, but we can handle them." With Eric's leadership and the team's strong camaraderie, they continued to overcome the next challenges. Zoe, with his technical skills, figured out a way to deceive the enemy's defense systems by tampering with the group's communication equipment to avoid detection. "We must keep in tight contact and absolutely not let them find us," Zoe reminded. Meanwhile, Lena continued to strengthen the team's strategy by negotiating with a group of alien creatures who acted as enemies in the training. Exploiting weaknesses in the opponent's plan, Lena created a covert alliance between the teams, helping the Earth group infiltrate strategic areas that the alien creatures would never have thought of. Every small victory brought Eric's group closer to their ultimate goal: to win the training and prove that humanity could adapt and triumph in the harshest environments, without relying on superior technology or supernatural abilities. The Earth group didn't just survive, they triumphed. And while the alien creatures faced their first defeat, Eric's team saw it as an opportunity they could not miss. They not only overcame the challenge, but also changed the perception of humanity in the eyes of the alien species who had once considered them weak and inferior. The training had entered its third day, and Eric's team had completed a series of life-and-death challenges that the alien beings had never seen before. They had proven that humans could survive, not just by strength, but by quickly adapting to any environment. However, Eric and his team knew this was just the beginning of a long and grueling battle. Now, they faced an even greater challenge: cooperation to win. For the alien beings, this was nearly unimaginable. They were accustomed to fighting alone, each team operating independently and never coordinating secretly. They had superior technology, the ability to communicate via telepathy, and skills that humans could never match. But Eric understood that this was their chance to prove something the aliens had never thought about. Humans could not only survive, but also strategize and win through unity and adaptability. "We'll create a plan they can't predict," Eric said as the group gathered that night. "We'll use surprise, tactical knowledge, and our ability to adapt to throw them off balance." He looked at each member of the team, one by one, and continued, "We'll be split into teams. Each team will have its own task. But we all must cooperate and make the enemy think we're weak, incapable of coordinating." Zoe, the engineer of the group, nodded. "I can modify the communication equipment, making sure they can't detect us talking to each other. They'll think we're completely isolated." Lena, who had exceptional negotiation skills, added, "And I can form a covert alliance with some of the enemy teams, making them believe we're fighting like enemies who never coordinate. When we make them think we're distracted, we'll actually be controlling the game." "Exactly," Eric smiled. "We'll make them play by our rules." The team members began to execute the plan. Each person would have their own responsibility, but all must adhere to the core principle: unity and cooperation. The alien beings would never suspect that humans, creatures they had looked down upon and considered weak, could collaborate and win. Rajiv, who had survival experience from Earth, would take on the task of observing and identifying the weaknesses of the opponents. He would employ basic but effective tactics to keep the enemy teams from recognizing their vulnerabilities. Deo, strong and calm, would lead the attack teams into strategic positions. Lena, as a natural diplomat, would pull other teams into covert negotiations, creating opportunities for Eric's group to gain an advantage. May, who managed communication and provided medical support, would monitor the health of all team members, ensuring everyone could perform at their best, especially in high-stress situations. Finally, Zoe, with his technical talent, would ensure that all of the group's systems worked smoothly, from communication devices to the hidden attack strategies. The team knew that once this plan started, there could be no mistakes. If they were discovered, it would all be lost. But if they succeeded, they would not only survive this training, but also change the way the entire galaxy viewed humanity. The next day, the training continued, but the alien beings had no idea that everything had changed. Each team was no longer working separately. The Earth teams, though split up, had begun to secretly coordinate, using subtle signals and sophisticated tactics that the opponents couldn't detect. When they faced an intense battle in the next zone, Eric's team executed their plan flawlessly. Zoe and May adjusted the communication devices to ensure the group could communicate without being detected. Lena used her diplomatic skills to create confusion among the enemy teams, making them distrust each other and disperse their forces. Deo and Rajiv led the attack teams into critical areas. The strategies employed not only distracted the enemy but also amazed the alien beings with humanity's efficiency. They were doing what the enemy never imagined, mastering the game from the shadows, controlling the training in ways the alien beings couldn't comprehend. Meanwhile, the alien trainers, watching from afar, began to feel the shift. They saw the unexpected tactics and actions that they never thought humans could execute. "What? What are they doing?" one of the trainers muttered, unable to believe what they were witnessing. But Eric and his team didn't pay attention to what the trainers thought. They pressed forward, each step, each tactic, meticulously planned to ensure they wouldn't just survive, they would win, and prove to the universe that humans were not the weak beings the alien species had once thought. The plan that Eric's team had set in motion was starting to materialize. After the secret communication signals were established and each member was ready, they began executing their unpredictable strategies. The training on Proxima 9 was not just a battle between teams, but a contest between intellect and strength. Every move, every decision in this battle was meticulously calculated by Eric and his team. They knew that if they failed, everything would end immediately. But if they succeeded, not only would they win the training, but the entire perception of humanity would change. The first battle that Eric's group faced wasn't about strength. On the contrary, it was a battle of intellect and flexibility. As the opposing teams began to move according to their own plans, Eric's team, under his leadership, used human adaptability to surprise them. Rajiv, with his excellent observational and analytical skills, was the first to notice a weakness in the strategy of the aliens. He realized that, despite their strength and advanced technology, the alien teams still lacked the ability to adapt quickly to changes on the battlefield. They relied heavily on fixed strategies and complex systems they trusted completely. This created an opportunity for Rajiv and his team. "We need to confuse them," Rajiv said as they hid in the shadows. "We'll break their plans, make them think we can't coordinate, and from there, they'll become vulnerable." Eric nodded, the confidence in his eyes giving strength to the entire group. "We'll use their complacency as a weapon. We'll make them think we're always one step behind." Deo was the first to implement this strategy. As his team moved through an area filled with dangerous creatures, he took the lead but not to fight. Instead, he created false trails, misleading the enemy team and leading them off course. This caused the opposing team to waste precious time and lose their strategic advantage. "Don't follow the plan. Let their plan lead us to victory," Deo said, his eyes sharp, embodying his trademark calm. When the enemy team fell into the trap created by the Earthlings, they were pulled away from the strategic positions they had intended to hold. Eric's team continued to capitalize on their adaptability. Lena, with her excellent negotiation skills, approached an enemy team and engaged them in an unexpected conversation. Using psychological tactics, she distracted them and made them start doubting their own strategy. Lena knew that nothing was more crucial than creating a disruption within the enemy ranks, causing them to become confused and vulnerable to attack from behind. "Every strategy can be broken if we make the enemy doubt themselves," Lena said as she stood between two opposing teams, skillfully manipulating every conversation. While Lena was causing chaos for the enemies, Zoe continued to fight in her own way. She discovered that the enemy's systems weren't as secure as they thought. Zoe used her technical expertise to infiltrate their communication devices, changing the information they received. She created fake messages that misled the enemies about the position of their team and the strategic locations. "They don't know we can change everything from within their own systems." Zoe smiled as she watched the distorted signals and the confusion in the eyes of the enemies. Meanwhile, May was doing an excellent job, maintaining communication and providing medical support. However, no one in the team expected the crucial role she played in the overall strategy. May not only treated the injuries of her teammates, but also helped monitor the changing situation of the opposing teams. She constantly provided timely tactical information, helping Eric's team stay on track and preventing any surprises from derailing their plan. "When we need information, it will be there," May whispered as she worked with the communication equipment, ensuring that the team wouldn't lose contact in any situation. Step by step, Eric's team moved towards their objectives, using cleverness and flexible tactics to overcome the formidable opponents. The strategies they employed weren't just a battle of strength, they were a battle of intellect. Each strategy was carefully calculated to create maximum surprise, making the enemy unable to respond in time. The alien creatures, who had been confident in their own strategies, began to feel uneasy. They couldn't understand how humans were managing to do the impossible. The alien cadets, who always believed themselves to be superior, now realized they were up against an enemy they couldn't predict. "We're being outplayed," one of the alien officers admitted, wide-eyed as he noticed the signals from his team being altered. "They're not fighting like we thought they would." The sense of surprise spread through the enemy ranks, causing them to become scattered and trapped in their own strategies. When Eric saw his team fully in control of the game, he simply smiled, not overly surprised. "That's our plan," Eric said softly, but decisively. "We made them let their guard down and won this battle." The training was no longer just a test of physical strength. It had become a battle of intellect, a battle that Eric's team, with their smart strategies and exceptional adaptability, proved that humanity could win not only through weapons or technology, but through creativity and a determination that would never quit. In this pivotal moment, Eric and his team demonstrated that they were not to be underestimated. They had taken on more powerful forces and turned their weaknesses into an advantage. Through the use of surprise tactics and careful manipulation, they had redefined the expectations of what it meant to be human. The galaxy was watching, and they had proven that humanity was not just another species to be dismissed. They were a force to be reckoned with. After several days of fighting and overcoming a series of grueling challenges, Eric's team began to realize that this training was not just a test of strength and tactics. Everything they had done, all the victories they had claimed, were leading them to a secret they had not anticipated. Something darker was unfolding behind the scenes, and what they had assumed was a competition between teams was, in fact, part of a much grander plan they were unaware of. As the opposing teams began to grow scattered and anxious, Eric couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. The battles were becoming more complex, and the alien creatures seemed to be changing their attitude toward the Earth group. Things started to feel off when the trainers at the Galactic Defense Academy, those who had been observing the training from the start, began to focus more on the Earth cadets. They seemed concerned, and this made Eric feel like something wasn't right. One night, when the group gathered in a safe area within the academy, Eric spoke seriously. "We've overcome every challenge, but I feel like something's wrong. The trainers are watching us too closely. I don't think this is just a regular test anymore." May, who handled communication for the team, looked worriedly at Eric. "You're not the only one who feels this way. Everything we've done, all the victories we've earned, might have made them realize we're different." Eric nodded. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore. Maybe this is part of a bigger plan. We're just pawns in a game we don't even know about." Lena, who was always optimistic, also began to feel an unsettling unease. "But if that's true, why have they let us keep winning? If they have a plan, they can't just let us succeed so easily." "Exactly," Eric said, his voice growing more somber. "But they're tricking us. This isn't just a training exercise. Maybe they're testing us to find the real warriors, those who can help them execute a bigger plan." Zoe, the quiet yet insightful member, spoke up. "I've been analyzing the equipment and systems they're using. Something's wrong with their reports. The data we're receiving from their devices isn't entirely accurate. What have they done with their systems?" May quickly checked the signals and communication devices. Just like Zoe said, the information we're getting is being manipulated, and there are interruptions in the signals in strange ways. They're altering the information we're receiving. Eric looked at the team members, his worry now evident in his eyes. "Maybe we've missed something all along. This training isn't just a game or a challenge. They're testing us in a way they've never tried before." Lena felt a sudden rush of fear rise in her chest. "So, all these challenges, everything we've done, it's just part of a game? We've been deceived?" "No," Eric said firmly. "We haven't been deceived. But they want to see one thing. They want to see if humanity can adapt in the harshest conditions. We're not just soldiers in this training. We could be tools in a bigger conspiracy, a galactic plot they haven't revealed." The unexpected revelation. Just as Eric finished speaking, an unexpected message appeared on the team's screen. It wasn't a message from the commander or a trainer. Instead, it was an order from an unknown source, directing Eric's team to move to a restricted Area 1, that no cadet had ever been allowed to enter. "Where's this order coming from?" Rajiv asked, his voice tense. "We've never received this kind of directive before." Eric fell silent, staring at the message. "This isn't a coincidence. We need to go there immediately." They traveled to the restricted area, which was believed to be a secret testing facility within the academy. Upon arrival, they discovered that not only had they been drawn here, but several other cadet teams had also been lured into the area. The trainers were standing, waiting for them, but not to welcome them. One trainer, tall and imposing, stepped forward and stared directly into Eric's eyes. "We've been watching you all this time," he said in a commanding voice. "You haven't just passed the tests, you've surprised us. However, you don't know what's really going on." Eric could feel the tension in the air. "So, what is really happening?" he asked, unafraid. The trainer sneered. "You've been selected for testing. You're not ordinary cadets. Every challenge, every hardship, it's all part of our greater plan. You will be the key to what's to come. A war you can't even imagine." Eric's team exchanged glances, none of them speaking. They hadn't known that this training wasn't just a test, but a part of a larger scheme by the alien forces to harness the strength of humanity. As soon as Eric's team realized that the training was not just a simple test, but part of a larger conspiracy by the alien forces, the tension among them began to rise. They were no longer just facing physical challenges. Now, they had to confront a galactic plot that they had never anticipated. The alien beings didn't just want to test humanity. They wanted to exploit the latent power of humanity for a much larger purpose that they had yet to reveal. Eric quickly realized that this was an opportunity for humanity to not just survive the challenge, but to turn the tables and win. "We can't keep being pawns in their game," Eric said, his voice low and filled with determination. "We have to do something to change the tide. If we don't act now, they'll exploit us and turn us into tools for their plan." The Earth team didn't have much time to think. The alien trainers had been watching them for too long, and now cadets from other factions were starting to notice the shift in their strategies. Eric's team had overcome every challenge, and no one thought humans could achieve that. This surprise was the golden opportunity humanity needed to turn the tide. Lena, with her diplomatic abilities, persuaded several alien teams that humans could be allies in the upcoming war. She relied not only on logic, but also created a covert alliance, providing an opportunity for Eric's team and others to cooperate without being detected. "We can't do everything alone," Lena said when approaching other teams, "but if we work together, we can turn the situation around." Rajiv, ever the pragmatist and calm under pressure, quickly realized that even though this training was part of a conspiracy, they could still use the tactics and skills they had learned to fight back. They never expected humans to cooperate. "If we mislead them and seize key objectives, we'll catch them off guard," Rajiv said to the team. The entire group was united in their resolve to carry out a grand uprising. They decided not only to participate in the training, but to change everything from how they were viewed by the aliens to the strategies the alien forces had used. This was a battle not just of physical strength, but of intellect, unity, and unwavering determination. Over the next few days, Eric's team acted as a unified unit, despite being split into different teams. They coordinated seamlessly, masking their signals and communications to avoid detection. Zoe led the charge in infiltrating the enemy's systems, breaking down security measures, and concealing any trace that the alien trainers could track. "We won't just beat them, we'll make them not even know where the blow came from," Zoe said, her face serious as she reprogrammed their communication devices. However, one major issue remained. Trenvor, Eric's Earth Team officer, still adhered strictly to rigid rules and was not yet willing to change his strategy. He still saw the alien teams as the true enemies, unaware that the covert alliance had given Eric's team a significant advantage. Meanwhile, Deo and May faced a tense situation when one of the alien teams noticed the shift in their strategy. May quickly used her medical skills and knowledge of biology to calm the enemy team, making them believe that Eric's group was merely following standard orders. Meanwhile, Deo kept a close watch on the enemy, looking for any sign of weakness to exploit and launch a surprise attack. The uprising began with small yet powerful actions. Eric's team successfully seized key strategic positions they needed. Secret communication signals were activated, and coordinated attacks were carried out without being detected. Some of the alien teams began to feel the shift on the battlefield and realized they were losing control. As the opposing forces scrambled to deal with the unexpected disruptions, Eric's team made a major breakthrough. They captured one of the most important command centers where the alien trainers managed their strategies. This was a huge victory, not just a part of the training, but a turning point in proving that humanity could dominate the galactic war to come. The alien creatures who had once underestimated humanity now began to realize that they could no longer treat humans as weaklings. From executing surprise attacks to seizing critical positions, Eric's team had proven that humans not only had the ability to survive, but could change the course of this cosmic game. The once skeptical alien trainers, who had viewed humans as mere pawns, now stood in awe of their unexpected prowess. "They've done the impossible," one of the alien officers murmured, his eyes wide as he watched Eric's team take control. "They're not like the others. They've changed everything." Eric stood at the front, looking at the battlefield that was now under his team's control. His heart swelled with pride, not for the victories they had won, but for the way they had proven that humans, despite being underestimated and belittled, were capable of extraordinary feats. They had flipped the narrative of their existence from weakness to strength, showing the galaxy that humanity could stand tall in the face of any challenge. "Now they know," Eric said quietly, his voice resolute. "We're not just here to survive, we're here to take control of our destiny." The uprising wasn't just a battle for victory, it was a battle for respect, for recognition, and for the future of humanity in the vast expanse of the cosmos. And in that moment, Eric and his team had proven to themselves and to the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. They were a force to be reckoned with. After the spectacular uprising led by Eric's team, everything seemed to change completely in the training at Proxima 9. The Earth Cadets hadn't just won, they had shattered every illusion the alien creatures had about them. They were no longer the weak beings incapable of surviving in this vast universe. Humanity had proven that they could defeat any enemy, not only with strength, but with unexpected tactics and intelligence. However, the victory of Eric's team was just a piece of a much larger plan that they couldn't fully comprehend. Upon taking control of the command center, they received an unexpected message. It wasn't from the training commander, but a notification from a hidden force within the Galactic Defense Academy. This made Eric and his team feel like they had only stepped into the next phase of a war they had never imagined. "What do we do next?" Rajiv asked, as the team gathered in a safe zone, preparing for the next twist in the saga. "We can't stop now," Eric replied, his voice filled with resolve. "We've gained their attention, and now it's time to surprise them again. They will never imagine that we can overthrow everything they've built." Everything seemed to be at a peak, but Eric's team understood that if they didn't act immediately, they would be stopped by even stronger forces hidden behind these training exercises. They had already disrupted the enemy's tactics, but doing so had made them a target in a much larger scheme. Eric and his team couldn't wait any longer. This game had escalated far beyond anything they had imagined. The surprise attack on the command center. While the alien forces scrambled to regroup and reorganize, Eric's team began plotting their next move strike that could end the entire plot of their opponents. They didn't just want to seize the command center. They aimed to uncover the secrets hidden behind the grueling challenges they had already overcome. Together with Zoe, who had modified their communication devices, Eric's team stealthily approached the command center. They had meticulously studied the weaknesses in the enemy's defense systems and discovered the loopholes their opponents couldn't see. With perfect coordination, they crafted a surprise attack that hit precisely when the alien forces thought they had regained control of the situation. Deo led the assault team, guiding them through controlled areas and quickly disabling security systems using methods that only humans could devise. "Don't give them a chance to react," Deo reminded as he moved quickly and precisely. Everything had to be done in complete silence. As Eric's team approached the command room, Lena made a decisive move. She used her diplomatic and persuasive skills to approach the leading trainers, who had no idea they were being deceived. She made them believe that Eric's team was simply following the usual training procedures, without any grander plan. This was the moment she broke their guard completely. "You've been mistaken," Lena said as she entered the command room, leaving the trainers confused and disoriented. "We're not just cadets. We've discovered the true purpose of this training." The entire team of Eric swiftly seized control. Rajiv and Zoe began altering the data structures in the systems, changing the information stored by the Academy, leaving the alien trainers unable to keep up with their plan. Everything their opponents had prepared was completely destroyed. The sudden discovery. At that moment, a senior trainer, one that Eric's team had never encountered before, appeared. He was a strange creature with thin wings and piercing eyes. "What have you done?" he asked, his voice full of suspicion. "We're doing what you never imagined," Eric replied, his eyes burning with unwavering determination. "We're not just the weak creatures you thought we were. We are warriors." A fierce battle of wits unfolded inside the command room. The alien trainer, realizing he had been outplayed, scrambled to restore control. But every move he made was countered by Eric's team, who had been prepared for every eventuality. "We don't just want to win this training," Lena said, her gaze resolute. "We want to overthrow your plot." Just as the alien trainer realized that everything had spiraled out of his control, Eric's team activated the final signal, shutting down the entire system of the Galactic Defense Academy. They had completely taken control of the command center, and there was no way for their opponents to retaliate. The collapse of the conspiracy. As Eric's team stood in the command room, all the alien trainers realized they had been defeated. Not only had Eric's team succeeded, but all the other creatures within the Academy had been tricked. The challenges they had set for humanity weren't survival tests, but a means to control the strongest beings in the universe. Eric and his team had not only proven that humanity could survive, but also that they could dismantle the entire conspiracy of the most powerful alien forces. "Humans are not weak creatures," Eric declared as he stood in the center of the command room. "We will never be manipulated again." The aliens, who had once seen humanity as inferior, now had no choice but to acknowledge their strength. From executing unexpected attacks to taking control of critical positions, Eric's team had shown that humans were not just survivors, but forces capable of reshaping the fate of the universe. As Eric's team stood firm in the command center, a sense of pride and victory surged within them. They had triumphed spectacularly, not just in this training, but in a much larger battle, the battle that completely changed the universe's perception of humanity. The alien creatures, who had once scorned and viewed them as weak beings, now had to bow their heads in acknowledgement of humanity's undeniable strength. "You were wrong about us," Eric said, his voice echoing in the empty room where only the alien leaders had once stood. "We are not the weak creatures you thought we were. We can do things you never even imagined. And now, you've seen that." Lena stood beside Eric, a soft smile on her face. "This isn't just our victory," she said. "It's the victory of all of humanity. We've overcome what everyone thought was impossible." Meanwhile, the alien creatures began to realize that humanity was not just a species left behind in the vast universe. They had been wrong to view humans as weak, easily manipulated and controlled. Now they saw that humanity could overcome any challenge. even in the most difficult situations. The greatest lesson from this training was a lesson in perseverance, unity, and the power of intellect. Eric's team hadn't just fought against powerful alien creatures. They had fought against the very prejudice and discrimination they had to endure. They proved that even without superior strength or technology, humanity could triumph through adaptability and clever strategies. As the alien trainers withdrew and the other alien team silently left, Eric's team understood that they hadn't just changed this training. They had changed the entire perception of humanity in the vast universe. They had proven that humanity could master itself, overcome any obstacle, and win it through brute force, but through wisdom and inner strength. And if you find this story captivating and feel the power of humanity in the universe, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next videos. These stories are just beginning, and there's so much more to be told. Hit like to support and subscribe to become a part of the journey to explore the universe with us. Share this story with your friends, because together we can change how humanity is seen in this vast universe.